Hello, everyone. Last week we sent out a message regarding ransomware attacks, specifically with something called WannaCry and Petya. Um, here's the actual text of the email. And what we wrote in here is all true, and I think it's fairly easily to understand and follow, but we wanted to follow up that with some additional reinforcement through a visual aid. So we put together this video to kind of help you visually see what we're talking about with some of these methods of attacks that we discuss in here, whether it's spoofing addresses, attaching malicious files, or anything of that nature. So if you haven't read this, or even if you have and you need a refresher, go back, review this email. It has some very important instruction. Of course, I'll go over that in this recording, but this is a good source for understanding what we're talking about, and as a go-to, what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we are avoiding these kinds of attacks that could really harm the business. So refer back to that. If you have any questions, email me, obviously. And the first and most important point, as always, if you have any questions, if you're concerned about a file, if you're not sure about a message, email this address here, helpdesk@thecrowngroup.com. We also have a phone number, 586-833-8110. You can call that, and we can very quickly assist you with determining whether that file is good or bad, or what we may need to do to research or investigate whether that's a safe file or a website to view. So without any further ado, I wanted to go through a few of the various attacks that we could be subjected to while we're on the internet or using email. The first of those is through, the most obvious one is through the use of a spam attachment. And I've got an example of that right here. We'll pull that over. So this is an invoice that I created. You'll see that it's got, bad guy at fakecompany.com. And in here it says, we have attempted to reach you multiple times. Your invoice is past due. We need to resort to collections. Avoid this collection attempt. They ask that you open up the invoice. A couple things here. If you've never heard of this company, first of all, you shouldn't even bother opening up the attachment. You should only open attachments that you were expecting. Somebody that you've talked to and said will be sending you something. If you're not sure that you should be receiving an attachment, call that person. That's the best way to find out if this is good or bad. Furthermore, I'll go ahead and open what I kind of put together here as an example, so you can kind of see. We've got an invoice here, and it's got some fake information. Doesn't really matter. Some fictitious information here. The most important thing is that it's got a link that says, you need to go view the product details. Go here, and it says anothersafesite.com, and it's definitely not a safe site. So the issue is that when you open this, whether it's a PDF or a Word document, once you actually click on that site, you're going to be directed to a site that could have a virus that you download. It asks you maybe to put in login information, and then it grabs that login information and uses that to access your bank accounts, your email accounts, whatever websites it can use. So this is an example of where we would not want to go. It's actually, when we click on it in Excel, thankfully Excel is good enough that it's going to tell us that as I'm clicking anothersafesite.com, it's actually taking me to a different website. This is not a safesite.com. So this is an example of two things, actually, of a malicious attachment, and then of another thing we'll talk about, which is spoofed URLs. So obviously Excel is smart enough that it's going to tell us, hey, you're going to go to a website. This doesn't look like what you were expecting. Are you sure you want to go there? At this point, you can say no and safely stop that from happening. The important takeaway from this is that if you have an invoice or any other kind of documentation that you weren't expecting from a company you don't know about, from a person you don't know about, even if it is a person you do know about, if you weren't expecting that attachment, it's always safe and best to contact that person via a phone call or face-to-face, and make sure that that's a safe thing for you to get. The next one we want to look at is what I just talked about, which is URL spoofing. So we'll go ahead and give you an example here. It's actually one that I got back in April. And it claims that it's from Delta Airlines. And if you look closely, it does say Delta Airlines. And it looks pretty close. And to the untrained eye, you may miss that it's actually coming from orders at Delta with 2a's.com. It's something very easy to miss, and it says your order on Delta is now complete. It's asking me to go here and get my ticket. Well, I didn't book a ticket at that time, thankfully. Maybe if I had, I might have missed it, but it even had the Delta logo in here to make it look legitimate. The issue here is that once you see this link, if you hover over it, I'm going to go ahead and use my drawing tool so I can illustrate this for you guys. But if I hover over, click this link, and you'll see when I switch back to my arrow mode, when I'm right in here, see how it says click or tap to follow the link, but it's got a totally different URL. It's going to Jessica Will 0917 blah 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 .php. Anytime you go into a website with PHP, that means it's going to launch code and obviously execute something that's meant to harm your computer. So this is a great example of a malicious email that has a link to it to take you somewhere that it's not, that you're at. It's telling you it's going to a website, but that's not actually where it's taking you. You can see here the same thing. This actually is a legitimate link. It is taking you to delta.com, as is this one. But this link here that they want you to view your ticket is a fake link. And it actually looks quite real. It's got the copyright here, terms and conditions and things like that. So another great example of a spoofed URL. Here's one more we can take a look at. This one I got recently, just the other day. And this is an interesting one. It actually it's a response to something that says I sent on July 3rd. That I said, have you shipped my order? Give me a call as soon as possible. And hello, the delay has happened, blah, blah, blah. Here's a link to UPS. It's even got a real person's name, email address, telephone number. The problem is I never sent that email, so I knew that was fake. But there's the link, and you can see it's taking me to something that says Prestige Tire Center. And again, if you look, it's taking you to a file.php. PHP is going to execute code, which is going to launch something on your computer to do something harmful, whether that be take you to another site or execute a virus on your machine. It's going to do something that you don't want to have happen. So definitely do not click that. Again, the best thing you can do is when you see a link, hover your cursor over it. Don't click it. Just put your cursor over it, and you'll actually see where it's truly going to take you without clicking on it. This is the best way to know where this link's going to take you. You can't trust what the link says here. I'll show you. You can type whatever you want behind the scenes and make it appear as something completely different. So again, with this kind of email, send it to the help desk. We'll take a look at it. But if you're not expecting this, if you don't know this person, this company, just delete it. If you really believe that this is a fictitious email, there's no need to keep it on your machine. We'll show you one more example. This is actually the scariest of the examples. So this is one I put together. I know you might be thinking that because I have access to the email system that I use the email system we have here to create this, and the truth is I did not. I created this as a real hacker would do, is they would have access to an open email server that allows them to spoof email addresses. And then they go out to the company, learn a little bit about the company, who's the CFO, get their logo, get all that kind of information, learn about some of the people that work there, learn who's in AP and AR so that they can send these kinds of emails to those people. And then I actually developed the email to make it look like it was coming from our VP CFO, Wayne Oliver. So you'll see here, and this is the scary thing, immediately says Wayne Oliver. And I faked that. And I also faked this address in here that says woliver@thecrowngroup.com. The issue here, it's got a 0, obviously, instead of the O, because if the hacker puts in the real address, when you go to reply, you're going to actually reply to Wayne, and so they accomplish nothing by doing that. What they want you to do is reply, and they have access to this box, or they'll put a different reply to address, and then when you reply with what they want, they can utilize that. So in here I put something which... This has happened before to members of this company, other companies, completely something that could take place, but they ask you for, bank account information, initiate a wire transfer request. They ask for the account number and routing number. A couple things here. We should never, ever provide that kind of information via email or any other electronic means, whether it's social security numbers, account routing numbers, personal ID numbers for the company, even cell phone numbers of executives, any kind of confidential information that is privileged and requires a level of trust should not be shared via electronic methods. There's, obviously this way of capturing it, but there's even if you're utilizing a connection which has been compromised, it's possible that information can get leaked out. So we would never want to use that kind of a method to send that sort of information. So never respond. The second thing is, obviously we looked at the sender and did a double check and saw this is not really Wayne, this is fake. And if I had gotten something like this, I would call Wayne and find out, do you actually really need this information? In fact, that's when it would be revealed that this is fake. So important to notice that. And this is probably the most worrisome, because it's very easy to miss that. Oh, it's, there's been other cases where they put a VV in instead of the W, maybe a 3 instead of the E, just ways that you would very easily miss it. Especially I faked Wayne's signature, and that's very easy to do. If I can look at anybody's signature in the company and get an idea of what they use, I can match it. So this is a very easy way to gain some very important data for a company. Be on high alert whenever you get requests for account numbers, SSNs, any kind of identifiable information, tax IDs, another good one. Any of that kind of information, be very wary and be cautious as you approach those messages. The next one we wanted to look at is another example of a fake email. And again, I didn't use any privileges on our email server to do this. Any hacker that has access to a compromised mail server or a mail server where they can fake their email can do this. So I put in Santa Claus at, Santa at thenorthpole.com. And I just said, I have some exciting news to share with you. Rather than explain, read for yourself. It says a totally safe link.com. Again, when I hover over it, you can see it's actually taking me to totally not a safe link.com. And you would never know that unless you hover over it and see that, oh, that's not what it's purported to be. So very important when you see a link, unless you're 100% sure that this sender is who it looks out to be and the sender name checks out and or even if it is, sometimes machines can become compromised, especially Yahoo accounts, Hotmail accounts. Those accounts can become compromised, and the viruses will send emails out from those accounts. So you may get an email from your best friend who has a Yahoo account, and it's got a link in it that looks fine. You go to click on it. Maybe it's a funny joke or a CNN article or something like that, and it's not taking you to what it's telling you. So it's very important that when you get links, you really take the time to kind of hover over that and look and see where it's taking you. Again, going back to the earlier message, never open attachments or click a link from anyone that's suspicious at all, ever. Unless you're expecting that attachment, unless you know that it was coming and you just talk to that person, question the attachment, question links. Always hover over the link to make sure you know where it's coming from. Number 2, never provide any kind of confidential information, social securities, bank, routing numbers, account codes, tax ID, password. It's important to note the help desk will never ask you for your password. We can reset passwords at will, so there's no need for us to request your password. We will always, change your password temporarily and let you know what that is, but we will never ask you for your password to access your account. We don't need that. And no one else in the company should ask for that password either. Be careful about spoofed addresses. Like I said, I showed the one from Wayne. That's a very easy way to spoof a message from an important person in the company who you may feel obliged to send a reply back to and do what they say. And that's exactly what the hacker wants you to do, is feel obligated to quickly reply and not second guess where this is actually coming from. So especially in those cases where it's coming from somebody who you feel obligated to respond quickly, look at the sender again. Make sure that email address, if I show the one from Wayne again, double check this address. Is this actually where it's coming from? Or if you've if you've emailed with them before, is their signature as it should be? Does it look fictitious? Is there something in here that doesn't match up? Question it at all times. And then at the end of the day, the easiest thing you can do and the most reliable thing you can do is contact that person and say, did you send me this? That's the best way to avoid these kinds of mistakes. It's important to really double check, triple check in some cases to make sure that we can trust what we're doing. As always, as I mentioned, the best thing you can do out of everything, forward it to the help desk. Click on the email. For example, if I wanted to forward this email, rather than just clicking forward, you can click on this icon here and forward as an attachment. That actually lets us look at the email a little bit deeper and do some analysis to find out where it's actually coming from, so we can block it on our end. And also, you can obviously call the help desk 586-883-8110. Appreciate everybody's time, and if you have any questions, contact me directly. I have an open line of communication and have no issues with answering any kind of questions, especially these ones where we have a lot at risk and we have really a need and a requirement to protect everything no matter what. So hopefully this helped, and give us some feedback if you can, and let us know what we can do to improve the knowledge for the organization going forward. Thanks.